Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Real Sports Updates here, back again with another video. So today's video, the topic is who is going to win the AFC West. We've seen all these moves happen in free agency. We've seen the AFC West get so much better within a span of a couple of weeks. Kansas City was the class of the division about the last 5 years, I want to say, ever since Patrick Mahomes came on. But this division has really evened out. There's a lot of talent. This is the most talented division in the NFL by far. I see a lot of people saying that the AFC West is the SEC of the NFL, and that's true to some degree. There's so much talent in this division. When you look at quarterbacks, when you look at offensive talent, defensive talent, pass rushing, everything. There's so much talent across the board in this division, and it is going to be one of the most exciting NFL seasons that I can think of in my lifetime. I thought last season was the most exciting season that I've seen, with all the moves and free agency, and there's still a lot of superstars out there now. This upcoming season is probably going to be the most exciting season that I've ever seen. So basically, who is going to win the AFC West? I'm not even going to beat around the bush and act like I am, not on my Chargers. I'm picking the Chargers to win the AFC West. I think the Chargers have the most talent from top to bottom, as far as roster go. From number 1 all the way down to number 53, I think the Chargers are the most talented, and that's on both sides of the ball. I think the talent distribution is even now. The Chargers have a lot of talent on defense now with the signings, the defensive signings that the Chargers made, that they prioritize in free agency. I think the Chargers are number 1 as far as teams go in the AFC West, and that is, all the way from Justin Herbert all the way down to our, backup safety. The Chargers have the most talent, and I think the biggest thing, and I mentioned this in several videos, is that there is personnel now that fit Brandon Staley's defensive scheme. Brandon Staley's defensive scheme comes from directly from the master himself, Vic Fangio. So you need your personnel to fit your scheme. Is very multiple, and you need big guys up there to gap pretty much, and that's what the Chargers didn't have. There's a lot of leftovers from that Gus Bradley defense, so the Chargers did play. They tried to play faster, but the guys were a little bit smaller. So now there's some big guys. There's some beef up front, and that's exactly what the doctor ordered for the Chargers. Now, as far as weaknesses go, at this point right now, and this is pre-draft. I'm making this video. It's just pre-draft. Draft has not happened yet. Pre-draft, the weak spot for the Chargers at this point right now, I think, is the linebacking core, and I think that's something that the front office addresses in the draft. But it is, there are some talented guys on the roster that do play linebacker, but like I said, this schematic wise, I don't think guys are like Kenneth Murray. He's a talented guy, first rounder. Chargers traded up for him, and he doesn't necessarily fit the scheme that Brandon Staley has. He's kind of a bigger guy, and he is a run stuffing linebacker. But I do think that there is a place for him. I just think that he needs to get his feet under him. This will be the second year in the defense under Staley, so I think he'll start to understand his role a lot better. But I think that's probably the weakest point that the Chargers have right now. Defense was the weak point prior to free agency, but now they shored up the defensive line. Obviously bringing in Khalil Mack, obviously Sebastian Joseph Day, Austin Johnson, bringing in those guys, run stopping guys, and obviously the best pass rushing duo in football in Bosa and Khalil Mack. The defensive backfield, Derwin James had a fantastic season last year, obviously a Pro Bowler, but J.C. Jackson really does bring that shutdown corner. He brings that to the Chargers, and it's something that the Chargers have needed for a very, very long time. He's a guy you can go out there and he can line up against anybody's best wide receiver and play him one on one all game. So that allows the defense, that allows Staley to mix up some of the coverages, it allows him to mix up some of the defensive fronts, and bring a little bit more pressure as well too. The defensive backfield for the Chargers was already solid. I think Michael Davis was a solid corner. He had a solid year last year. Not spectacular, but he was good. Same thing with Asante Samuel Jr. He had a pretty good season. The concussion thing is something to worry about, I think, going down the road. But he had a pretty good season last year as a rookie, and I think he's going to get better. So the defensive backfield looks a lot better now than it did last season. And I think the Chargers just have the most talent from A to Z. Now that doesn't mean that I would be surprised if any of the other teams won the AFC West. This is really a division where I wouldn't be surprised if any of the four teams won. And looking at the landscape of the AFC, you look at a team like the Raiders. The Raiders are probably going to have a winning record this coming season, and it might not even be good enough to make the playoffs. That could probably be said for any of the teams in the AFC West, but it just goes to show you how much talent there is in the AFC West, the AFC as a whole. There's so much talent in this division, in this conference. But I just think the Chargers are a little bit better than everybody else at this point, especially after the Tyreek Hill trade. We seen that yesterday. I think Kansas City is considerably worse waking up today than they were yesterday. You don't have that guy on your roster. He is, like I said, he's one of one. He does everything extremely well. As far as the wide receiver goes, he's a fast guy, but he does run pretty good routes, and he is exceptional in the scramble drill type stuff. That's how he was, able to break some of those really long, touchdown runs. Turning a 5-yard slant into a 50-yard touchdown. He's a guy that can do that. And without him, without him on that Chiefs offense, I think Kansas City is not. They're not the same. They're not the same, and people can talk themselves into thinking that they are, but they're not. And this will be the first time for Patrick Mahomes that he's not playing with at least two all-pro pass catchers. Travis Kelce is a perennial all-pro tight end, and Tyreek Hill is all-pro. He's been all-pro wide receiver, I think, the last 3 seasons. So this will be interesting to see how it's going to play out for Kansas City. I don't think that they are the same. They do need to focus on their defense. I think they'll go heavy defense in the draft because that's something that they do need to address. But it's not a given, that all their draft picks are going to turn out being great players, especially on their defense where they need it. So Kansas City is kind of relegated to fill in their holes in the draft, and they do draft well, but it is not an exact science, so we'll see what happens with them going forward. I'm interested to see how they adjust to this Tyreek Hill absence. Maybe Andy Reid goes back to his Eagle days, and maybe they start to try to run the ball a little bit more. It's hard to see, but they're going to have to do something to compensate for missing that speed on their offense. But that will be interesting to see going forward. As far as the Broncos go, I think the Broncos are probably the second best team in the division from top to bottom. The addition of Russell Wilson obviously is, that cannot be understated how important that was for them to get a quarterback. They have not had that quarterback since Peyton Manning retired in 2015, so he is there, and he's going to lead this team. This Broncos team was a pretty damn good team last season. All things considered, bad quarterback play, inconsistent quarterback play, a bunch of injuries. They were pretty good. They were pretty damn good, and it's going to be interesting to see how they adjust to Russell Wilson. They are a team who they ran the ball They had emphasis on running the ball last season, but that was under a defensive head coach. They have a new head coach now, Nathaniel Hackett, coming over from Green Bay. I think he's going to try to open the offense up a little bit. But the big question for me, and I think a lot of people with Denver, is are their receivers how good are their receivers? Basically, I know Jerry Judy and Tim Patrick and Cortland Sutton. Um, they've been okay, but I don't know how good can they be. Now, obviously, I expect them to be a lot better playing under Russell Wilson, but um, are they going to be good enough to you know put up points basically in spots where they need it, especially in division games? And that's really my question. Um, and do they abandon the run, with Russell Wilson there? They're going to throw the ball a hell of a lot more than they have in the past, 3 or 4 seasons under Bridgewater and Drew Lock. So do they abandon the run? Are they not able to run the ball anymore? Are they, it's going to be interesting to see. But um, that definitely is a question. And defensively, I think the Broncos are very stout. Bradley Chubb, the Randy Gregory signing was huge. The DJ Jones signing from San Francisco was huge as well too. They were already pretty good on the defensive line last season as well too. But Vic Fangio's not there anymore, so I expect the defense to take maybe a step or two back. But overall, they have a solid team. They're a team that can definitely win the division easily. They can, especially if they are able to balance, have a good balance of running pass with Russell Wilson. They're a team that they can get to the AFC Championship easily. So, and lastly, I think the Raiders are the weakest team in the conference. They have talent. They brought in Chandler Jones, obviously. The Devontae Adams trade obviously was big news, but their issues lie in more areas than the other teams in the AFC West. Offensive line has not been a strong suit for the Raiders. Is that something they address in the draft? Possibly. They. I'm not sure how well they will draft under Josh McDaniels. I know Mike Mayock had a pretty bad reputation. John Gruden as well too for the draft. But just looking at Josh McDaniels and at his other head coaching opportunities, specifically in Denver, and I think it was the offensive coordinator with the Rams as well too. So I'm not sure how much input he had with drafting, but I'm sure he had some type of input. But his drafting has not been anything that's impressed me. Obviously he's the guy that took Tim Tebow first in the first round. When he was head coach in Denver, that was obviously a mistake. So I don't know where McDaniel's head is at. I don't know what he is thinking as far as the draft goes, but I do know that the Raiders have holes, specifically at offensive line. They have holes all over their defense. They have a pretty good pass rush, Max Crosby, Chandler Jones, but up front between the tackles, I'm not sure how good they are. Only time will tell. They weren't very good last season. They allowed a lot of running yards, and they allowed a lot of third down was a problem for them. They allowed a lot of yards on third down. So I'm not sure how good they are. I know at linebacker they are a little weak there too. Denzel Perryman had a pretty good season, but he's a guy. He's been injury laden. He was a San Diego / LA Charger for a while, so he's a guy who does seem to get injured a lot. But he had a pretty good season last year. But they are thin as far as linebacker goes. He's the only guy I can speak of who had a decent season. And in the secondary, they need the most help in the secondary, I believe. They did address that in free agency. They did sign some guys who were, they weren't big names, but they were better than the guys that they had there last year. And then safety is the weakest part of the Raiders defense, probably their team. They are not good in coverage at safety. And again, is that something that they address in the draft? Possibly. Um, do they maybe try to make a run to Tyrann Mathieu? Maybe. But in my opinion, the Raiders are the weakest team in the AFC West. But they're still a damn good team, though, and they can beat anybody on any given Sunday. So um, that doesn't really mean anything as far as the grand scheme of things goes. But just talent wise, I think the Chargers are the best, and if they put everything together like they should win the division. And I'm not going to say easily. It'll probably come down to a Week 17 game, just like it did this past season. But the AFC West is going to be a bloodbath, but it's going to be fun. I expect a lot when the schedule comes out. I expect to see a lot of AFC West games in prime time. I expect to see a lot of Monday Night Football AFC West games. I expect to see a lot of Sunday Night Football, a lot of Thursday football with AFC West games. It's going to be very fun. The talent is there, and I think this is the best that this division has ever been. I've been a Charger fan for a really long time. I can't ever remember this much talent in the AFC West ever. This has been a really, really, really good off season for the AFC West. Good off season for the AFC in general, and the NFL in general. Man, this is going to be fun. This is going to be fun because there's only one playoff spot in the AFC West, so it doesn't matter how much talent's there. There's only one team that's getting there. So, I think the competition that's there this season is just going to be fantastic. It's going to be amazing for football fans. I am excited. Like I said, I'm not going to act like I'm not biased. I do think the Chargers win it, but I'm sure there's a lot of people who have differing opinions from me. But if you do have a different opinion, sound off in the comments. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you think the Chargers are going to win. Let me know if you think there's another team that's gonna win. But yeah, sound off in the comments. Let me know. Don't forget to like the video. Consider subscribing to the channel. Help me hit my goal of 1,000 subscribers. I want to get monetized pretty soon. So, so on and so forth. But that's all I got for today, guys. Until next time.